Hello. In this demo, I'm going to show you some of the visualization features that have been added to Valuation Tutor. When you first start Valuation Tutor, you have to select the subject that you want to study. You can access SEC filings, go to study financial statement analysis, or look at intrinsic value models. I'll select financial statement analysis. If you click on that, it asks you to download a data set. The textbook data set is the data set which has all the examples in the textbook. I'm going to download the current FTS data set, which is a data set of roughly 2,000 companies, and it's data that we have extracted from the financial statements. You'll see in a second how I use this information. Okay, so it's downloaded the data set. Let me resize this a little bit so you can see it. I put it in the middle of the screen. Just as a quick background, within financial statement analysis, we have various subjects. There's common size analysis, and if you open that, you can see that you can compare companies by scaling variables by total asset sales and so on. You can also look at raw unscaled values, which can be very useful. You can do contribution margin analysis and break-even analysis, and then in the business ratios, we have all of the traditional ratios, starting with fundamental growth, DuPont analysis, profitability ratios, and so on. Under activity analysis, you can see the degree of operating leverage and financial leverage and so on. One of the key things about Valuation Tutor is that you can see where all the information comes from, and you can see how to use the information, but one of its most powerful capabilities is the ability to compare companies and to compare them visually, not just by looking at numbers. So let me look at a stock like Amazon, Amazon.com, and if I select that, then that becomes the stock that I'm studying, and let me look at unscaled values. So these are raw financial statements of Amazon and other companies. You can see when we selected this, the Amazon information is shown to you numerically in the middle, and over here you can see the same information. So these are the raw sales of Amazon and two of its competitors, Barnes & Nobles and eBay. Below here we have the companies in the same sector, and over here companies in the same industry. You can select the basis of comparison over here. So for example, I could say, let me look at specifics. So I could type in whatever, IBM, I don't know, Dell, which was there before, and I hit enter, and then those become basis of my comparison. And I can choose different ticker sets in different cells. So for example, here I could do I don't know, Walmart and Target, and so in any case, I just want to show you that you have a lot of flexibility in how you do this. The standard comparisons include immediate competitors, which we specify, stocks in the same sector or industry, which you saw. You can do it with all stocks in the data set, but if I do that right now, you'll see that the picture is hard to see because there are over 2,000 stocks, and it's hard to fit it all into this little chart. You can zoom in the chart like that by marking an area, and then if you want to go back, you just hit this refresh button and it'll replot the things. We also have indexes, so you can compare it to, say, the S&P 100, the stocks in the Dow Jones average, and obviously with a fewer number of stocks, the chart looks better as well. Now, let me do an actual analysis. Let me do the same thing, but I'm going to scale everything now by total assets. So this is Amazon sales scaled by total assets, Barnes & Noble sales scaled by total assets, and eBay sales scaled by total assets. If you click on fields in this calculator in the middle, we're looking at sales right now. If I click on cost of goods sold, all three charts now plot cost of goods sold for the competitor sets or the comparison sets that we have selected. What this does is it lets you see how a single field, for example, sales scaled by total assets or EBIT scaled by total assets, compares across a whole bunch of other companies in three different comparison sets. One other little feature is that if I want to switch away from Amazon and say I want to focus on Target, I simply double-click Target here, and then that becomes the firm that I'm studying, and then everything is now reflected relative to Target. So this would be the competitors of Target over here. So the main part about this base visualization, as we call it, is that you can see how a single field compares across different companies. So you can look at EBIT, you can go further, you can look at, say, payables, and so it at a glance shows you what different things do. And so that's one set of visualizations. We also have another set of visualizations. So remember, what's happening here is single field, like short-term borrowings, and you're looking at how a bunch of different companies fare along that dimension of how do they compare with whatever field we're looking at. In the advanced visualization, it's almost the inverse of the problem. We're looking at multiple fields and a few companies. So here is one field and many companies. In the advanced visualization, which if you bring up, will bring up a screen like this. So here we're looking simultaneously at, say, sales, cost of goods sold, gross margin, and the SG&A. I can turn something off and I can turn it on. So if I can look at receivables, I can look at payables. It can also superimpose the sector and industry averages on it. And of course, you can always add additional tickers if you want, just like you could before. There's a pie chart, and you can also show a column chart, the same information. And if you are familiar with the colors of the companies, you don't need to show the legend, and you get slightly bigger charts. And as you keep adding things here, it just keeps adding more pie charts or more column charts for you, so you can compare on whatever dimension that you want. Let me show you how to use this. Remember again, what we are doing here is governed by this initial tree. So we're looking at common size analysis, total assets. And so we're looking at all these fields scaled by total assets. Let me just look at the two company comparison, and then that'll be clearer. Let me do Target and Walmart. Okay. You can see here, if you show the legend, that Target is in green and Walmart is in blue. And you can see that scaled by assets, Walmart has considerably bigger sales than Target. In fact, 151%, as shown on the screen. Its cost of goods sold is 163%, so it's a little proportionately higher, and therefore, as you might imagine, the gross margin for Target for Walmart is which is the difference between the two, is shown over here. And you can see that the gross margin is more equal than sales are, and you can see also that the reason for that is that the cost of goods sold for Walmart is a higher percentage of the pie chart than Walmart. So this gives you kind of an intuitive feel for what the data look like. You can look at other things as well. So for example, if I look at how all of this translates into EBIT, you can see that the gross margin doesn't translate linearly into EBIT. Okay, so the proportions are different for EBIT than they are for gross margin. In fact, the gross margin proportions look a lot very similar to sales, and so you may want to investigate what happens on the way from calculating the gross margin to calculating the EBIT, because obviously there are other terms that are subtracted in the EBIT calculation. So you can use this to do it systematically. So for example, you could look at excuse me, payables. You can look at receivables, which is here somewhere. Receivables. You can compare inventory. So for 1-2 companies, this is a very, very powerful visualization device, because how things flow through the financial statements becomes very evident, and once you start playing with it, it actually becomes very intuitive. As an example of which, again going back to the beginning, is that how do sales and cost of goods sold translate into the gross margin, and then how does that affect income type calculations as well. And so you can start to look at where companies are outperforming or underperforming, and this gives it to you at a very microscopic detail. So that's some of the advanced visualization features. There are also advanced comparison features, and I'll go through those in another video. Thank you.